Testing. Just testing, testing. Mic check 1, 2.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's settle in and start our press conference. Welcome, Andre, the president of Finca International, to our press briefing. We are live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube and other channels. Okay, so let's get started. Right? Are we ready? Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, thank you so much for joining us today. Our program is going to be very, very brief but informative. So I urge you to just be keen, get out your notebooks and everything in the digital era, have your recorders ready, and we get into it. We'll have 3 agenda items. We'll have an introduction of the extinguished guests you see here, and then we'll go deep into the briefing of today and closing remarks. Questions from you, and then closing remarks. So I will right away invite the managing director of Finca Uganda, whom you are all so familiar with, to take it over from here and introduce everybody, and we get into it.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good day to you all. And it's great to see you all once again. Those who are joining us online as well, good day to you from wherever you're joining world over. I have the pleasure of hosting our president and CEO of Finca International, Ms. Andre Simon. Andre, you're welcome to Uganda. Yes. Andre is joined by 2 members of the senior management team of Finca International. We have Seth Sparrow as well. Here with us is our global marketing officer. And we have Michael Hopland as well, who is our director global communications. And we are pleased to have him here in Finca Uganda. As a way of introduction, Finca International is our founding organization of Finca globally. And it is also a major shareholder of Finca Uganda here in Uganda. And Andre Simon, as the president, joins us here today. Andre has a wealth of experience. I believe over 2.5 decades of shaping the microfinance story globally. And I mean shaping because she's been at executive level of Finca for all these years, for over decades. And it's a pleasure to really have someone of experience with us, Andre. Yes. Now, Finca International globally has 15 subsidiaries. And it is celebrating 40 years of its anniversary this year. And that's a tremendous achievement for us globally. Now, we in Uganda are blessed to host our president in their 40-year anniversary, our 40-year anniversary. And that's special to Finca, not only because Finca globally had its first footprint in Africa, in Uganda, 32 years ago. So we were the first gateway country for Finca to bring its services to Africa. And since then, we've grown this footprint to over 6 countries in Africa, impacting over 1 million customers in Africa and many more millions over the 32 plus years that we've been in this country. Now, why are we here today? So Andre Simon has spent last couple of days with us in Uganda, and we've had some very exciting conversations with her. And she will shortly talk to you about some of those things that we've discussed. And, but before I do invite her to speak to you, I want to just set the stage about our recent history. Now, over the years in Finca, we've evidenced the fact that the work that we do in improving financial services and access to families in Uganda helps them smoothen their financial burdens, improves their consumptions, and their well-being in society and the communities that they are. Now, in the recent 5 years or so, we focused on a digital strategy that brought services to the doors of these families. And we've seen that impact grow year on year. To date, 72% of our transactions goes through these digital platforms in Uganda. And we've seen our customer base increase by over 40% in the last couple of years as a result of these initiatives. Now, in our conversations over the last 2 days, we've discussed about Finca's renewed focus after 40 years. And part of that is really refocusing and impacting even greater lives in the micro finance segment in Uganda. And this is going to touch on some of the most excluded sectors that we see in our country. One of them is women. And we know women have continuously been excluded in financial services. And the youth. And which country better than in Uganda, where over 60% of our population are below the age of 25. So we, as an organization, stand to make sure that we have job opportunities for these young entrepreneurs and women across the country. And in that focus, Andre Simon will speak to you about a couple of things. And I don't want to preempt many of them, but I can talk very briefly and highlight some of the support that we are getting in Uganda from our shareholder in Finca International. And they're going to support us in expanding our impact to the microfinance segment in Uganda in a number of ways. One of them is through bringing expert support in product development and design. We are committed to using a human-centric approach to listening to our customers and to build products and services that will indeed get them out of poverty. And by bringing these experts in HCD process and agile product development, we are looking in the horizon of having improved product offerings to the micro segment in Uganda. They're also coming with continued support to bring platforms and digital platforms that are end-to-end, that are interfaced directly with our customers and our field staff, that will provide the ability to provide scale to this segment in Uganda. And not the least, but also renewed commitment to funding that growth that we'd expect to come in Finca Uganda as a result of these initiatives that we will have today. So I'm excited about the prospects that we have for Finca Uganda and the impact that these conversations we've had over the last 2 days will have to us as a community in Uganda. And with that, I have the immense pleasure indeed of inviting Ms. Andre Simon to speak to you all today. Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you. As usual, Mr. Onyuta has said most of what I want to say better. So, but I will try and convey my own thoughts. First of all, it is, as always, a great pleasure for me to be here in Uganda. Uganda is a market where we know that there is still a tremendous amount of opportunity and need for microfinance institutions like Finca. It's also one of the most professional markets that we work in, and we have an incredible team, as you know, working here to really try and be as focused on the customer as we possibly can. As James mentioned, this is our 40-year anniversary. Microfinance was originally created because the financial institutions were not serving the poorest, right? They didn't believe that they were viable customers. And that was a revolution in and of itself. But for the next 40 years, We want to create another revolution that's going to make sure that we are really radically improving on how we are meeting the needs of those customers. Worldwide, 80% of Finca's customers are self-employed. And we know that the vast majority of those who are financially excluded across the world are self-employed, not because they choose to be self-employed, but because they must create their own employment, right? And that is the kind of entrepreneur that we are here to serve. We also know that the majority of the people who are excluded are women. And we also know that those women benefit disproportionately from access to responsible financial services than any other group, right? Because they're going to invest that money in sending their children to school. We've seen that. It improves food security, improves access to medicine. There are a lot of benefits that actually have been measured. We have a fantastic research team at Finca that does our own research that's been internationally recognized, but we also rely on the research of others to prove that point. And we know that investing in micro and small and medium enterprises is actually one of the best ways to grow the financial health of a country's financial infrastructure. And so there's a really important role that Finca plays. As James said, Finca Uganda has been one of the very early microfinance operations that we have as an organization. They've been in existence for over 30 years. They've served over 500,000 customers, which I think is very impressive. Currently, they have about 150,000 customers throughout the country. Half of them are women. I also want to point out and give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back that we have some of the best gender diversity in our staff of any organization in similar roles. So almost half of our staff globally are women. We think that's very important because we are really trying to focus on bringing in women who are marginalized. And in order to do that really effectively, you need to make sure that you've got both halves of the world that are represented by your team. And that includes at senior leadership levels. Since 2021, we have doubled the number of women-focused products that we offer as an organization. Clearly, there is more work to be done around that because women do have unique needs relative to their male counterparts. And we know that they benefit also tremendously from coaching and access to savings accounts that help them to save up for important life events, but also to invest in their own resilience to be able to get through different crises, because that is the reality. In every market that we work in, there are lots of risks that happen all the time that we don't have a lot of control over and that our customers don't have a lot of control over. There might be severe weather events, there might be political instability, there might be issues like hand, foot, and mouth disease, or foot and mouth disease in cattle, for example, which I know has occurred here in Uganda. And those are challenges that can throw people who are just trying to build their own financial health, they can throw them off of that path very quickly, right? Because they're self-employed, they can't phone in and say, I'm sorry, I can't come to work today. If they can't work, they don't eat. Right? And so that you need to have savings and you need to have other mechanisms in place that are going to make sure that when those individuals, self-employed individuals, are impacted by those crises, that they have the resilience to be able to withstand those kinds of shocks. And for that reason, as we were looking at our ambition for the next 40 years, not only did we decide that we needed to be a data-driven institution and a customer-centric institution as we have been. But we also realized that we needed to think about the offering that we were creating in a much more holistic way. Access to financial services is one piece of the equation, right? People do need to be able to generate an income for themselves. But what we heard from our customers is that they also need to be able to be resilient, which means they need access to insurance, and they need access to savings. They need access to education that's going to help them protect themselves against climate events, as an example, to plant crops in a different way. And they want to be able to send their children to school. And so we are thinking about the whole person now, as opposed to being narrowly focused on microfinance. But microfinance is the heart of Finca. Don't get me wrong, right? That is the core of our identity. And to that point, James mentioned the appetite that we have for innovation around products. So this is not exclusive to microfinance. Financial services generally have not been terribly innovative about the kinds of products that they offer to customers. And we believe at Finca that if we are really going to help our customers and deliver the impact that is at the core of our mission, we need to be able to deliver lower prices, but also much more flexible loan terms that line up with the needs of those customers. And so to that end, we are investing in two different elements. One of them is our ability to actually meet our customers where they are and understand, again, in a data-driven way, what their precise needs are. So we've created what we're calling the Poverty Eradication Lab, which is a group of people who are trained in human-centered design, who are helping us to meet with our customers and training our staff in how to ask questions in a way that will help us to better understand the specific needs that those customers have. The second piece, though, is investing in digitization and automation. Most microfinance institutions find that the price of investing in technology is too high for their organizations. We're very fortunate at Finca that we have a network, as James mentioned, and so we are planning to make an investment at the network level that will support our ability at Finca Uganda, and they are, as he said, the lead in developing this, but we are developing a platform that will enable us to offer much, much more efficient and tailored products to our customers. I can't close without really focusing in on the customer centricity piece of this again, though. Finca's success over the last 40 years is rooted in the fact that our customers trust us and we trust them. And we all know that in this space, we have customers that have been with us for 20 years, more, and they stay with us because they trust that Finca is going to look out for them and help them when times get difficult, to get through the challenges that they're facing, but also to guide them and to provide them with the education that they need, and the coaching that they need. Financial services, and probably most of the people in this room, you have access to financial services, you understand them very well, but a lot of the customers that we are working with need some additional support and encouragement. And that is what Finca is here to provide, is to help people understand the terms and conditions, to make sure that they're making a good decision for them and their families, and to help them along the way. We also really know that for individuals who maybe don't have the ability to walk into a traditional commercial bank, there is potentially a bit of worry, concern about going into those kinds of institutions. And so for that reason, we don't want to leave it just to mobile financial services or to bank branches for our customers to access financial services, because what we see in the marketplace is that they just don't, right? If we are expecting people to be integrated into the financial system solely through mobile financial services, we will fall short in our goal. We have to go that last mile to where those customers are. Many of them don't even have telephones. And it is our job to be the bridge for them into formal financial services. So I'll just close with this. As James said, and Robert is going to say the same thing because we've talked about it so many times in the last few days, but we are really positioning Uganda as on the forefront of redefining the future of microfinance services at Finca. The road ahead is a digitally enabled, data-driven culture and delivery model for our customers. And we know that with the partners that we have been very fortunate to earn support from over the last year, and more partners to come, not only will we be able to achieve great things here in Uganda with our team, but also globally throughout Finca. Thank you. I had a water though.
Uh, Thank you very much. And we'll now take questions. The order of questions is you introduce yourself, the media house, and you ask the question. Who wants to go first? Ismail?
Yeah, Ismail Ladu, Nation Media Group. Just a couple of questions, very simple questions. One to Andre. While interacting with the customers, looking at your operations in Uganda here, what touched you most? What is that single thing that you said, I'm going to take this up and immediately? Then to the CEO, I can see there is a move towards technology, which is a good thing. But if you look at the people you are dealing with, the micro people, as Andre said in her submission, is many of them don't even have a phone. And it's likely to take away that human experience, that social interaction, which micro people, the people you deal with, it's really important in that segment. Now, if you seems to go that way, what is the implication for that? Because there are people you may leave behind, and I'm sure that that's not your intention. Then another, as I conclude, when your customers borrow, what do they borrow for? What are those pressing issues that they want to have solved? And what's the default rate, for instance? Okay, let me stop there maybe. I don't want to monopolize the...
I think let's take Ismail's 5 questions. Ismail is my long-term friend. We've worked together for 20 years. But he has been like that since. So, no surprise.
I wasn't complaining. I was noting.
Let's take his 5 questions as other guys cook up questions.
Okay.
Amid us, we have some people doing our social media, updating live. They should also feel free to ask questions and get feedback from what is happening online. The person manning our YouTube channel, please do look through the comments so that we are able to get all the feedback and answers and still close within the hour.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I'll answer the first question of, this is honestly the reason I get out of bed every morning. So there are some fundamental truths about what human beings want, right? And it doesn't matter what country you are in. If you speak with a mother who is self-employed, who is trying to earn a living, she wants to make sure that she has enough money to put food on the table every single day. She wants to be able to save up for her daughter's wedding. She wants to be able to make sure that her children get medicine when they need it. And she wants, more than anything, to invest in the future of her children, right? To have that hope for the future. And the fact of the matter is, it is very expensive to serve some individuals, right? Commercial institutions stop at a certain threshold. And microfinance institutions take up below that threshold, but it is really hard to lower that threshold. And so for me, that is what we need to do. We have to strive as an organization to push that threshold down, to make it affordable for people at lower and lower levels to be able to invest in their own family's success. Because what I know also is that humans are like universally capable of remarkable things, right? Not everybody wants to be self-employed, but if that's the only option that people have, they are exceptionally good at it, right? They will make it work. And people are universally, it doesn't matter where you were born, what education you have, people are really smart and they have a lot of talent and they have a lot of desire to go out and earn that money for their families. And so our job is to figure out how we deliver that capital and how we make it as accessible as we possibly can in a sustainable way for as many people as possible.
Thank you, Andre. And Ismail, thank you for those questions. I think there were three that came in one question. Let me answer them by trying to define a typical Finca customer. That lady at home, the housewife who has to take care of kids at home, at the same time till that garden that helps feed the family, and have some excess that is placed out in a kiosk by the roadside, and wants to be able to expand stock and probably buy some more produce that she can sell at a profit that will help that family for education, you know? Yeah. Or that border guy who couldn't get formal employment after going to some level of education, has been renting a bike and paying off, but wants to acquire his own bike so he can actually scale. We see a lot of our customers looking for working capital finance. That is, and Andrea's mentioned over 80% of the people in this market are entrepreneurs. They're actually running their own businesses, and they need capital. We're solving that capital problem and bridging that finance for them to expand and grow their businesses. So that said, we've been doing this for over 30 years in Uganda. And you've asked us our default rate. Our default rate has always been below 3% annually in this product space. And even at the peak of coming out of the pandemic, we could see that we were managing to keep them within that space. How do we deal with this market segment when it comes to the element of digital, mobile phone usage, and use of technology? We like to use the word of tech touch, all right? So not in purely technology, and our CEO has mentioned it, not just going purely technology only, but we actually rely on also our expertise of our officers who have meticulously and continuously trained our customers on the benefits of using this technology safely. And I have to emphasize that word safely, because through misuse, it can also lead to their own losses. So we train, we invest a lot in financial education and learning how to use these platforms, because we know the benefits that come with access, you know, with ability to instantly get services from wherever you are, but also that there are secure systems that you can rely on knowing your right balances or right information that is coming from your financial service partner. So that is our approach to ensuring that we break that barrier of inability to use these technology interfaces. And we've seen that grow. As I mentioned, over 70% of our transactions are now through these platforms. And that is evidence of the great work that our teams are doing in financial education. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Yes, my name is Ron and I'm from NMG as well. And I wanted to ask two questions. One that I would like to know, of course, in regards to microinsurance. You mentioned that it is one of the areas you would want to, take focus in. But as we know, in Uganda, it is an area that has proven so difficult for most of the investors to penetrate, for reasons based to them not failing to, design products that suit the market, and also the investment, requirements, of which the regulator has tried to lower down, but still I can assure you that there is still a lot of work to be done in regards to that area, and yet it's a market that is very viable. So what is your approach in regards of, in terms of targeting that, that market that is viable and many people have found it very difficult to invest in? And secondly, you mentioned that you would want to invest in digitization as part of your future plans. Do we have a figure of how much?
So the easy answer on the second question is we are currently sizing the level of investment that's going to be required, and it is substantial. And we're very fortunate, again, that we have a lot of partners that are going to help us with that investment. And I think that, the expectation that everyone involved has is that the juice is worth the squeeze. Do you know this expression, right? Yeah, that it's really going to be worthwhile making that investment. We've done a lot of analysis already to prove that the business case for the investment is very positive for the customer, right? And that is our main goal. But, I mentioned in my answer to your second question, the thing that is crucial in responding to your first question. So I learned just recently, and I don't know if you all know this, but apparently Uganda was one of the first countries to actually have microinsurance products that were available. And they were super successful in the beginning. And so what I have been doing over the last year, once we realized that we wanted to explore how to do this, is really interviewing people who were involved in that first round of microinsurance in Uganda, and identifying partners who have the expertise in insurance, who want to work with us to help to pilot something. Now, I can't promise that the first place that we pilot something will be in Uganda. But certainly, we are very invested as an organization in expanding the microinsurance offering that's available, and particularly around crop insurance, which, yes, I agree with you, like all insurance, microinsurance has faced a lot of challenges without question. And there have been issues with, of course, the scale of the markets and the number of clients who are willing to subscribe. But this is something that we must move forward for the sake of the individuals that we're trying to support. So I'll have more to report the next time I'm here.
Yeah, Mr. Habwe, if I may, we sit at a very interesting time in Uganda on microinsurance. And as you'll be aware, last year, I believe, the President assented to amendment of the Microfinance Deposit Taking Institutions Act that allows Finca now to engage in bank assurance, okay? Now, that's a game changer for us because we will partner with insurance companies now directly to provide services to the over 150,000 customers we have, and even more that we will reach in the years to come. And that's because as a last mile organization reaching to those micro entrepreneurs, in that partnership we're able to actually deliver products that are bundled that will have even greater benefits and insurance for these customers. So I'm excited by that. We've already signed up partnerships with farms in Uganda, and we're about to launch these products in the next few weeks, if anything, next month, all right? So this is a space that, like Andre said, we will be speaking a lot more about in the near term, and we're happy to work with the expertise globally to even design better products that are suitable for micro entrepreneurs. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Aloysius Kasoma from Daniel Vision. I have two questions. First of all, you're very welcome to Uganda. I want to understand if you are completely ruling out the transition to tier 4 level, they are comfortable at tier 2, tier 3. Then second, agriculture is the biggest employment in Uganda, but still the worst because over 60% into subsistence farming. So, the availability of banks hasn't been so helpful. Personally, I want to say that it hasn't been so hopeful because banks, in my opinion, have failed to come up with a suitable products. So, in your narration, you say that you are really dealing with the last mile customer. I want to understand how you're going to change this narrative. Not until the coming of agency banking, where we have seen that very many people are coming to join the financial sector. But before, the numbers were really very, very, very minimal. So I want to know in the next 40 years, what Finca Uganda, what is the magic you are going to use to change this narrative whereby very many people are going to appreciate all the products you are going to come up with. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me just take wait, what was the first part of the question again? Right, no.
Moving to, you mentioned
Yo,
tier one.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so that is a question that has to be addressed with not only the leadership team, but also the full board of Finca Uganda, but I will give you my perspective, which is I am a complete sucker. Do you know the word sucker? I am always interested in optionality, right? So I think you should never say no declaratively unless it's really a massive distraction to what you're trying to do. But where we are right now is very focused on the space that we are inhabiting and achieving as much success and growth here before having designs on anything else. I want to answer the question on agriculture a little bit, but I think James has, Uganda-specific answers. Because I admittedly I am looking at this in collaboration with all of my partners in the different countries that we work in. But I have that global perspective. So worldwide, 40% of our portfolio is in agriculture. It's very substantial. And we know that the vast majority of the world's self-employed are in agriculture. And I also fully agree with you. They are the most vulnerable, right? And they have the least access to credit. And Finca has always historically loaned into agriculture. I think that there are multiple things that need to be done in order to make that sector thrive in a meaningful way. One of them is clearly around climate adaptation, right? It's a fact that we are experiencing more severe weather shocks than we have in the past, whether it's a drought or rains and floods. And so that means that our clients are more vulnerable to those experiences. And so not only do we have to look for insurance partners that can help us with that, but also we have to be proactive about helping our customers to plant crops that are going to be more able to withstand those kinds of shocks. And we have, again, partners, and I think this is kind of the word of the day, right? When you have an ambition that is as big as ours, we cannot do that by ourselves. The expertise of this team is in understanding the needs of Ugandans, right? That is what they are brilliant at, and obviously managing this institution. But we need to bring in technical experts in a lot of other places in order to provide more than financial services or to make those financial services more successful. So that would be sort of my global level answer to you, which is climate adaptation for sure. And again, insurance and mitigation, and adding to our expertise in agriculture-specific products, which is actually pretty robust globally, so that we continue to stay really on top of our game in terms of what we're offering to those particular clients. But I'll ask James to add more specifics for Uganda.
Thank you so much. Andre, you've answered almost 90% of what I wanted to say. Thank you so much. But let me tell you a story, Aloysius, that earlier on as we were prospecting of how we are going to get into agri-financing space as Finca. I had the opportunity to speak to some customers, and I met a customer who was getting financing for actually crop production. And they said, you know, right now I go to a bank and I get, say, I'm going to use dollars because of Andre here, $100. And while my repayment is, say, $10 every month, I'm going to put $60 into the garden, and I'm going to keep $40 so that I continue paying the bank for the first 4 months before my crop is harvested, and I can use the money from the harvest to pay the balance of the loan. In other words, they are borrowing, and part of it was to borrow to pay you back and not even use that capital. Why was that? Because a lot of the basic financial service structures were not designed for agriculture finance. And we learned very quickly that we needed to have specific, unique structures for agriculture finance with grace periods, with flexible terms. And we did that. As I speak, Finca Uganda has over 10 years experience in agriculture financing. The agricultural investment for Finca Uganda contributes 40% of our committed assets in Uganda as I speak now. And that is compared to the industry average in the sector, which sits at about 12%. And I think that tells you how much we're committed to serving that sector. But as you say, and as my president here says, there's a lot more we can do, especially to the smallholder farmers who are much more vulnerable to climate risks and disease. That we have to find partners that can aggregate them and bring on board, resilience mechanisms like insurance or even better farming practices that will secure the investment against all these diverse dynamics that we face, from floods, name it, drought and so on. So like she says, partnerships is the way to go, and we are continuing to discuss to unlock those partnerships that will increase our committed investment in agriculture in this market. Thank you so much. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Vincent Siriko. I work with Radio 1 and Akabo Skupiri. I have two questions. The first one is about the reality of the low inclusion of the vast majority of the micro business operators, because most of these businesses are not bankable, because when they ask for records and things of the kind, hardly can they provide any. Now, Finca seems to have grown with this population, maybe to some extent involved them. That's why you see this growth. I would like you to speak to what do you think still remains a challenge to include the much of this bulk that hasn't yet enrolled into the banking business element or the bankability of their businesses. What do you think remains the challenge and redress from you? How do you hope to go about it? That's the first question. The second is about, could you tell us, now this is an evolution, because when someone attains 30 or 40 years, that's a very long time. We are embarking on another phase of the same, and I think that's why we are here today. Could you speak to could you share with us the vision, or especially to the business owner out there, in the new Finca journey, that this is how we expect to cooperate with you to move along in regards to how they should do financially, their financial behavior, and how they ought to transit in a way that involves them, but for you. Thank you.
So the barriers or the challenges to serving customers, there are some obvious ones. I will say specifically for women that many of them don't have collateral or titles, right? And so, that's a huge challenge that we need also partnership with the government to solve. There is also the issue very frequently in the countries that we operate in of appropriate documentation at all, right? Literacy and numeracy are serious challenges. It's all well and good to develop an app that people can use, but if they can't read, it's not going to be very much use to them. And so, I think that's just a starting point, right? There's also the fact that people are frequently living in remote rural areas, the most marginalized and excluded. And so just by definition, you've got an expense, right, related to just getting to them or them getting to you that sometimes is very prohibitive. And so our job as an organization is to continuously think about how do we lower those barriers? How do we lower the cost, right, to make it more accessible? How do we make it easier for people to access remotely? So just to give you a couple of examples, in the past, somebody had to get on a boda and ride out to a community if we wanted to be able to serve that community at all. Now we have a call center, right? There's usually at least one phone that people have access to so they can call in. We do have mobile applications that people can use if they feel comfortable using that, even with feature phones, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a smartphone. We have obviously the ability for people to make transactions through agents, should they so choose. All of those are important improvements that have been made, but there is so much more to be done. And what James was talking about earlier, and I have mentioned, is we believe as an organization it's our job to invest in the technology and the data analysis that's going to allow organizations like us, not commercial institutions, full service, large regulated commercial institutions, but people who are focused on microfinance, to do that just as efficiently and effectively to continue to lower that barrier. But we also are, very conscious of the fact that we serve a special customer group, right? And they're always going to have special needs. And the fact is that the lower you go, right, the more people you include from, further down the spectrum, the harder it gets. That's just the reality, right? And that's okay. That's what we're here for. We like that challenge. But it is one that we nonetheless have to rise to meet. Did you want to answer part two?
So part two was about that entrepreneur. What do we tell the business person, right?
Yeah.
So the new Finca. So I'll look at them and I'll tell them what to expect. So the new Finca, as we mentioned, will continue with our customer centricity. And we are committing to improve our offerings that will make the lives of that customer even better. And that means greater access to finance at lower affordable costs, and even getting greater amounts of capital that they can scale their businesses with. But there's one critical thing that I think you will see and change. First of all, we are proud at Finca of a personalized service. I've mentioned the tech touch, which is very important. This institution today has achieved what it's done because of the excellence of our officers out there in the field who are walking the journey with customers through their financial knowledge and, growth. And we continue to do that. What we've done differently now is we've equipped them with technology that allows them to complete transactions end-to-end while they're with the customers. The platform that we are talking about and all that will come with it is even going to enrich us with more insights about what you as an entrepreneur would like to see, the flexibility for you as an entrepreneur to structure financial services that meet your type of business or cash flow cycles, so that we are delivering something that is going to make your business even succeed better. So more engagement, more design in offering flexible and affordable services to you. That is what I can tell our entrepreneur out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With only 4 minutes to go, I'm going to allow for a wrap-up in Luganda. And then for those who want to do the sound bites, we'll break up and do the sound bites. after that, right? We do the Luganda. You have one more question? Yeah. You want to do it in what? Okay. All right. So the Luganda will be taken by only the ED. Yes. All right. Their Luganda does not Lugandering, right? So do you want to take the lead on the questions? Okay. Do you have a mic there? No? You can use this.
Yes.
But be cognizant of the time, eh?
Okay. Ebibuuzo bijja kuba bisatu okuzinga ekigenze maaso wano. Okusooka twagala otubuulire olugendo luno lwe mutambudde nga Finca okuweza emyaka gye muwezezza mu Uganda ne mu nsi yonna mulutegeddemu ki mu byenfuna n'engeri abantu gye babitegeeramu mu Uganda ekisooka. Ekyokubiri mukolagana n'abantu abakola businesses entonotono oba ezitandikirwako. Kusoomooza ki kwe musanze mu kubanga namwe mubayingiza mu kisaawe ky'ebyenfuna mu ngeri ya businesses era mulowooza okusoomooza kubaddewa n'amagezi ki ge musaze. Ekisembayo Finca ey'enkya kati katusuka ku myaka gino gisigira omuntu ekifaananyi akola atya okuba nti naye talekebwa mabega.
Webale nnyo webalire ddala Aloysius Kisiriko Vincent Kisiriko Aloysius olwa Radio 1 akaboozi ku bbiri. Okusooka byonna nga Finca Uganda tuli basanyufu okuba nti nno tulina omugenyi ow'enjawulo President waffe atukulembera mu nsi yonna omukyala Andre Simo ndoza byenjogera abulira bulungi yatukyaliddeko era nga mu kujja wano Finca esajja kudde. Finca International etwala Finca Uganda ewezezza emyaka 4 beddu. N'olwekyo tukubye ekifaananyi gye tuvudde era twagala okulaba gye tulaga mu Finca empya. So okuddamu ekibuuzo kyo olugendo luno tulutambudde ebbanga okuba nti nno ffe twasookera ddala wano mu Uganda okuba nti nno tukola microfinance oba okuwola omuntu owa wansi. Era tutambudde olugendo olwo emyaka kati 32. Mu lugendo olwo tulabye nga tukyusizza embeera z'abantu kubanga omulamwa gwaffe omukulu kulaba nti tujja abantu mu mbeera ey'obwavu okuba nti nno tubafuula abantu abasobola okweyimirizaawo. N'olwekyo tukikoze bulungi nnyo kubanga tulina abantu abatandika nga beewola emitwalo 5 ne kati nga basobola okuba nga beewola obukadde 100 n'okusoba. Ndowooza nti nno enkulaakulana nnungi era ebadde yakugenda mu maaso. Pozi nekyanjagala okubategeeza nti nno wetwatandikira bakasitoma baffe baali tebatereka ssente naye kati twafuuka ekitongole kitereka ssente ate ssente ezo bakasitoma basobola okuzifuna we bali nga bakozesa ebyuma bikale magezi, basobola okukozesa ATM, basobola okukozesa essimu nga ebintu bye tukola mu bizinesi zaffe kati abantu basobola okuba nti nno batuuka ku akawunti yaabwe ku transactions 7 ku buli 100 zonna ziri nti ziyitibwa mu kitu egyo agitwogeddeko. So olugendo lubadde lunene. Ekirala bizinesi etambudde bulungi kubanga tulabye nga tukyusa embeera z'abantu. Abantu bavudde mu bwavu era nga emyaka 4 egiddako gy'obuuzizza mwami Kisiriko Finca empya egenda kuba tetunuulira kuwola bwozi muntu ssente wabula kuba nti tusitula embeera ze. Twagala okuba nti nno kitukola kyonna kitulolera ku kasitoma okuba nti nno kasitoma tumumanyi bulungi era tumutegeera bulungi ate nga tumutuusaako ekyo kyennyini kyayagala. N'olwekyo Finca International egenda kuteeka ssente mu Finca Uganda okwongera okunyweza enkolagana eyo wakati waffe ne bakasitoma okuba nti nno bye tuwola bakasitoma tubawa bakasitoma bennyini bye beetaaga okulaba nti bibajja mu bwavu era nga bikyusa embeera zaabwe.
Okay, thank you so much. Oyina ekibuuzo kya Luganda kya Luzungu? Ez'abakyala.
Okay, weebale nnyo. President waffe ayagala nnyo ekiyitibwa abakyala. Finca Uganda eriwo okulaba nti abantu bejja mu bwavu. Era tulina abantu baffe be tuyita bamufunampola bangi. Tuyinza kwogera ku mufunampola nga tuyogedde ku mukyala oba omuvubuka ebiseera ebisinga. So abakyala twesanze nga tebatuuka kufuna kuweereza kwa byansimbi olw'okuba nti nno tebalina musingo. Abasinga abakyala tebalina byapa bya ttaka, tebalina kaadi ya mmotoka okuba nti no basobola okwewola. N'olwekyo ekyo tukisalidde amagezi okuba nti no bakasitoma tusobola okubawola nga tebalina musingo. N'ekirala twesanze nti bakasitoma abasinga nga omukulu waffe bwe yagambye nti abasinga bekozesa era Uganda yesinga mu nsi yonna yonna okuba nti nno erina abantu abeekozesa era bulaba abantu abasinga okwekozesa abasinga bakyala. N'olwekyo tubawola ssente era tutereka ssente era tubayamba okuba nti basobola okwewola mu bibiina byabwe ne babanga newankubadde tebalina musingo gwe bateekayo basobola okukozesa okwewola nga batambulira mu bibiina byabwe nga basobola okuba nti buli omu asobola okweyimirira munne ne beeyimirizaawo. N'olwekyo ndowooza nti Finca ekoze ekintu ky'amaanyi okuba nti nno bakasitoma bo bamufuna mpola abaali beewola omutwalo kati beewola ssente ezisinga ane ku ezo. Weebale nnyo.
We had a question or two on YouTube, but I think we shall respond to them online. I think we are out of time. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Tweyanziza nnyo, mwebale nnyo, asante sana, tweyanziza. For any questions or further inquiries, there's a contact on the press release. Please feel free to reach out for photography and bits of the video. Please reach out to us. We shall give you the right content and the right quotes. Thank you very much and have a good evening. We have refreshments for you.
Thank
Please
you all
don't leave us for them
coming.
for us.
Appreciate it. Thank you for helping us to get the word out.
Mwebale nnyo, mwebalire ddala okujja ku press conference yaffe.